canyon. Were led by members of the Bigfoot Field Research Organization, or BFRO, made up of professionals from various backgrounds. In the past, they've traveled all over America, conducting field research and experiments, compiling evidence on the existence of Bigfoot. This trek is about to become their most revealing to date.
The BFRO is the largest volunteer organization, so we are kind of at the pulse of the cumulative effort to go out and find that physical evidence.
Months of preparation have gone into this unique animal expedition, with experts flown in from all over the United States. Among them, Matt Moneymaker, a lawyer from California and head and creator of the BFRO. Richard Knoll, an aerospace engineer from Seattle who has worked on aircraft including the stealth bomber, and whose job it is to take plaster casts of unusual prints. Dr. Leroy Fish, a wildlife ecologist and zoologist from Oregon, who has finely tuned his skills to take on the role of BFRO animal tracker. And Dr. Gregory Bamberneck from Minnesota, considered to be the country's top expert in pheromone detection, essentially the art of sniffing out Bigfoot using scented discs laced with the sex hormones of female primates. Not only does this team contain a selection of hand-picked experts, it has access for the first time to specialized equipment made available by Sierra Pacific Innovations and Animal X. It includes cameras like this thermal imaging device, the world's most advanced heat-seeking recorder. It can see through thick forest areas in pitch darkness for over 2 kilometers. With sophisticated audio equipment that broadcasts tape-recorded calls of a Sasquatch, the team believe they have their best chance yet of drawing Bigfoot out of the mist. On this occasion, the speakers are pointed towards Skookum Meadows. A good decision, as it's an area that will later reveal an amazing find.
The wind is blowing in this direction, so what everybody's saying is that the sounds will carry into Skookum very well.
As the team's recorded sounds echo through the mountains, it's time to put the thermal imaging camera to the test.
Go ahead, Tom. We're on the hill above your location. We are northeast of your location. So you will scan the camera to the southwest toward us.
You got that?
Yeah.
Okay, 225. What does it sound like there, Tom?
We're hearing some stirring right below us. So try another scan at 235 degrees. That's southwest.
You got that?
It looks like there's a kind of a nebulous glow, but we'll tell them to just be patient. If it moves, I'll let them know.
The strange noises and movements continue throughout the night and the following 4 days. Dr. Leroy Fish believes playing the pre-recorded Bigfoot howls has a marked effect on the elusive beast.
For me personally, I was pretty skeptical until this week. And 2 nights ago, I sat and listened to an animal override with huge volume. Half a dozen coyotes screaming. The sound was completely different, and it was very similar to what we've been broadcasting.
Others have heard similar, yet distinguishable Bigfoot sounds.
One came up and screamed on the opposite side of where we were playing back, and 2 loud screams. I've heard lots of strange sounds that come out of other animals. This wasn't one of those animals. This was almost exactly like what we were broadcasting out.
Another shift and another strategy. This time, the BFRO members lay out fruit in the hope that their night stalker will take the bait. The following morning, the site reveals something extraordinary.
We came back around, looking at this again. We were just about ready to leave when we noticed that the rest of this looked like it had hair in it, hair imprints. And finally it dawned on us that this is something that isn't a bear. It sat down on its butt.
The team demonstrates the position they believe the creature lay in. From the indentations in the soil, they established that it was big and heavy, laying down whilst reaching for the fruit. The excitement of the find filters through the team. A Bigfoot body imprint is a rare find, and the BFRO know it.
Okay.
We get some tooth impressions.
Yeah, right.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. I mean, a lot of footprints have been found, and in some cases a hand print and a knuckle print, but never a lower torso that can be studied by a primatologist.
This is one of the first times we may have proof, even without a picture, proof of DNA evidence of a North American ape.
Later, Animal X puts the Bigfoot cast to the test with scientific analysis. But first, after the break, we hear a compelling story. In part one, we watch the Bigfoot team uncover an unidentified partial body print. More on that later. Now, though, it's time to hear a frightening eyewitness encounter with Bigfoot in America's Pacific Northwest.
While even some of the most dedicated Bigfoot trackers have never set eyes on their target, others have stared it directly in the face. One of the most compelling accounts comes from these ancient forests in Oregon. Could they be home to a living Sasquatch?
I was scanning the trees downhill from my right to my left, over that way, and that's when I saw the movement out of the left corner of my eye. I turned my head real quick, and that's when I saw Bigfoot.
Animal X travels south of Portland to the Oregon Caves National Park to meet members of the Johnson family and hear details of their extraordinary close encounter with Bigfoot. It was a perfect summer's morning in July 2000 when Matthew Johnson, a clinical psychologist of 18 years, set out with his wife and 3 young children for a day's hiking. They chose one of the longer trails, 6 kilometers, a road less traveled by visitors. They were on this isolated stretch, the Big Tree Whip Trail, when they suddenly became aware of a strange smell.
We're downwind of it, and it's a very strong smell, like a skunk, as strong as a skunk, but it's not a skunk. It would be fair to say that it was definitely tracking us. It was tracking, stalking, it was paying attention to us and following us. This is where I thought we might be dealing with a Sasquatch.
Dr. Johnson clambered alone to a higher vantage point to investigate, and what he found was Bigfoot.
It was dark brown to black. It had kind of a pointy cone-shaped back part of its head. It had a protruding brow ridge here, dark skin with hair coming up to it, a flat nose, not a nose that sticks out like mine or yours, but more of a flat nose and lips. It was taller than an NBA basketball player, more buff than an NFL football player, and it could have just crumbled me and thrown me away.
Shaking himself out of shock, Dr. Johnson's protective instinct came to the fore. Running back down the trail, he yelled to his wife Rochelle and children to flee.
I came running down. I intentionally chose not to establish eye contact with it. I didn't look at it again. My primary focus was to protect my family and get them moving up the trail.
The family eventually made it to safety. Reluctantly, Dr. Johnson told his story to Ranger Beverly Cherner. She's in no doubt that he saw something terrifying.
I believed him at the time that there was no question in his mind that he was very clear about what he saw.
2 days after the Johnson incident, Ranger John Roth went to the scene of the sighting. He's another who believes the doctor's story. After all, it's not the first time that visitors have reported seeing Bigfoot along the same isolated trail in the Oregon Caves National Park.
I don't think that he made this up. Again, I've had other experiences with other people, and the emotional state that they're in when they actually see these creatures leads me to suggest that whatever they saw, what they saw, they described to me as accurate.
The Johnsons are by no means isolated in their experience. In the US alone, more than 4,000 people have reported seeing a Sasquatch. Interestingly, the BFRO print revealed in Part 1 of Animal X was found in similar terrain to the Johnson sighting. Perhaps, over time, these two incidents may help prove that a giant hominid creature lurks in these dense forests.
We watched the Bigfoot team uncover an unidentified partial body print. We now ask the experts if this really could be living proof of a hominid species that shares our planet.
The Pacific Northwest is largely unexplored, and some say the ideal hiding place for a giant ape. So after a week's intense trekking in the area, could this elite team have found conclusive proof of Bigfoot?
Why wouldn't it be a bear? Because when a bear, when it goes to lay down, it will sit, roll, and get into the fetal position. Number two, a bear would not hardly ever come out into an open wallow like this and just lay down. No, a deer would not have sank anywhere near to the depth that this has sank.
Located in the Skookum Meadows area of the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, this 1 by 1.5 meter imprint is quickly tagged the Skookum Cast by the Bigfoot Field Research Organization. So rare is a find of this nature that word spreads quickly. Media reports follow, as well as headlines on the internet. From first inspection, the BFRO is in no doubt of their find gaining worldwide attention.
This is a body cast of a Sasquatch, which in my experience was a questionable animal for many, many, many years. My main interest is to try to convince the scientific community that this animal exists and should be more closely inspected.
After combing the area for microscopic clues, including hair samples, the next step for team members is to get a cast of the giant impression. Using more than 100 kilograms of plaster, they carefully fill the cast. Then use aluminium tent poles to reinforce it. After setting, it's wedged out of the ground to be sent north for expert examination. In a laboratory in Seattle, 600 kilometers from the national park, Animal X assembles some of the world's most regarded experts in the Bigfoot research field. The team consists of physical anthropologist Dr. Grover Krantz, who has studied evidence of Bigfoot for the past 30 years. Dr. Jeff Meldrum, an associate professor of anatomy and anthropology, who has expert knowledge of how primates move. Dr. Henna Fahrenbach, a biomedical research scientist and Bigfoot hair expert. And Richard Knoll, who brings his expertise in aerospace engineering to isolate significant parts of the cast with one of the world's most sophisticated electronic measuring devices. Together, they determine the significance of the Skookum cast and look for detailed clues about the creature that they believe created it.
We're using the Leica laser tracker to map the surface in 3D. And if we rotate it, we're going to see what the cast look like. It sort of takes the same shape as the cast itself.
Although a painstaking process, it's a state-of-the-art method that eventually draws a clearer picture of the cast.
It's a very small part of the cast, possibly a square foot of the hip area. We still have quite a bit to go.
Dr. Grover Krantz examines the cast with the same attention to detail. His trained eye and a lifetime of experience in the Bigfoot field plus his work as a physical anthropologist, leads him to agree these confusing bumps and ridges were made by a living Sasquatch.
It certainly looks like a Sasquatch was thrashing around on the ground there. Getting exact measurements was very difficult. I'm not sure that this can be very precise, but I'm quite impressed with its legitimacy.
Dr. Jeff Meldrum and Dr. Grover Krantz discuss the finer details of the positioning of the beast.
Here's slid over here, and then plunk, plunk. And this is the thing that's kind of...
Dr. Meldrum has spent many hours poring over this cast in detail.
For me personally, perhaps the most significant finding is the presence of what appear to be dermatoglyphics, which are the skin ridge patterns on the soles of the feet that are evident on these heel imprints. Those features are very diagnostic because they are characteristic of primates and are not found on the feet of any other animal any other common animal to the woods that might have been responsible for this imprint.
Over the years, there have been numerous footprints found with these dermal ridge patterns. The information contained in the Skookum cast adds even more information to what a Sasquatch could look like.
We took measurements of what appeared to be the forearm and the thigh, which appear to be internally consistent in proportion, and compared that to the same body segments in a 6-foot male human, and found them to be 40 to 50% longer than those of a 6-foot male. So that suggests a size probably in the range of 8 to 9 feet in height.
The experts' findings now add weight to the numerous eyewitness accounts. The Sasquatch could be a very large primate. Additional information is collected from the print. That again adds to the increasing body of evidence that this truly is an amazing find. Dr. Henna Fahrenbach is an expert in identifying hair from different animals and has, what he believes, are samples of a giant ape.
I have about a dozen samples, over a dozen samples of Bigfoot hair collected in 4 states of the United States. They all agree in structure with each other in terms of diameter, color, pigment distribution, lack of a medulla, and lack of banding or tapering.
Dr. Fahrenbach examined a number of hairs found at the Skookum site. He identified bear, elk, coyote, and something else.
I found just one short, very short hair broken off at both ends that corresponded to my typical Sasquatch hair collection. So far it's only one hair, but sometimes that's all it takes to be found in the back seat to convict you.
The experts also conclude hair patterns within the cast are also consistent with that of a primate.
I was extremely impressed by the fine detail of the hair striations, the imprints of the hair on the buttock and the thigh especially, and coursing across the forearm. Not only is the hair very evident, but the flow pattern of the hair is anatomically correct.
For our experts, there is no question that the Skookum cast is a rare and valuable addition to the search for clues about Bigfoot. Perhaps DNA results from the fruit eaten at the Skookum site will add more weight to the evidence presented here on Animal X.
If we're going to prove that they exist, and if they are on the verge of extinction and we're going to do something about it, well, we better prove that they exist or they're going to go extinct without our ever knowing about it. So the closer they are to extinction, the more important it is to shoot one to prove they exist, so the government will have to do something about it.
While this special report, with its compelling eyewitness account and imprint discovery, may not offer conclusive proof, scientists involved say it is imperative that serious scientific investigation follow into the existence of a North American primate species known as Bigfoot. After all, there are stranger things in heaven and earth than we can think of. You've just seen some of them on Animal X.
The connection between crop